Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Greg Bishop. Interested in facts that don't fit from an early age, in 1991, Greg Bishop co-founded a magazine called the Excluded Middle, which was a journal of UFOs, conspiracy research, psychedelia, and new science. Wake Up Down There, which anthologized many of the articles and features, was published in 2000. Greg's second book was Project Beta, The Story of Paul Bennewitz, National Security and the Creation of Modern UFO Myth, which documented a government campaign of disinformation perpetrated against this unsuspecting U.S. citizen. His current book is It Defies Language, and it's a collection of essays detailing his long involvement with the UFO subject, government insiders, and theories and opinions about what is behind the phenomena. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound wonderful, and it's a great honor. Definitely to have you on.
Cut it out. Thank you.
Indeed. And so you were just saying you roasted peanuts. I love roasted peanuts.
No, I roasted peanuts with arbol chilies, and then put chili lime powder and habanero on it, and I roasted it in peanut oil. And so chili roasted peanuts are one of my favorite things.
Yeah, you're speaking my language. That is making my mouth water.
I'll try not to eat while we're talking.
Yeah, well, anything goes here. So, all right, let's dive in.
Okay.
So let's investigate. Let's look back at your earliest memories in this life. The things I'm looking for are the stuff that really sticks out, good, bad, ugly, pop culture-y things like cartoons you may have enjoyed, even stupid stuff like triple knit polyester, which still sticks out for me. So yeah, and of course, if there are any early dreams.
Okay, what do you want to do with this?
Well, so the reasoning for this is setting up an idea of the world you came up in. And it sets the stage for the narrative that when we talk about dreams, whether they're actual dreams or the philosophical side, we have an understanding of who you are as a person.
Right.
So, and that's why.
I don't know. My earliest memory, we lived in Anaheim. I was born in 1963.
You're older than me.
Yeah. A month before the Kennedy assassination, actually, a little less than a month.
Wow.
So I remember nothing about it. But we lived in West Covina and then Anaheim. We lived like a mile from Disneyland, so we used to see the fireworks every night from Disneyland in the summer.
Well, that had to be fun.
Yeah, and when I was a kid, we used to be able to. They didn't have the security they have now, so we found holes in the fence in Disneyland, and we used to sneak in and wander around. We didn't have tickets to go see anything, but we got to wander around Disneyland for free. So,
that's
and
awesome. Seriously,
nobody asked us where our parents were or anything. I don't ever remember being in trouble.
Those were the days too when you could do that. You sure can't do that now.
No, not at all. So yeah, sneaking into Disneyland. Then we moved to San Diego. And I stayed there. I was 10 years old, and then we moved to, stayed in San Diego. My parents are still there. And then I came back to the LA area. I was born in Pasadena. I came back to the LA area to go to school, to go to USC, and I got a degree in art history, which has done me really well. I had no employment having anything whatsoever to do with art history.
Yeah, and that traditionally that's like the wealthy person's degree, because you don't, there's art history. I have a degree in art. But it was definitely craft based.
My parents aren't wealthy; they're not poor, but my dad just said, do what you want to do, because whatever you're going to do in your life, you better like it. So I don't care if you're working at McDonald's or sending rockets to the moon. Whatever you want to do, as long as you enjoy it. he actually sent rockets to the moon. He was a still is a chemical engineer.
Oh, wow.
He worked at Aerojet and McDonnell Douglas and developed rocket fuels for the space program.
Wasn't Aerojet one of Parsons' involvements?
Yes, it was. So I've got 2 degrees of separation from Jack Parsons.
Yeah, that's significant.
That gave me chills. My nipples are hard now.
Yeah. Seriously. Okay, so back early, what kind of like more kind of surface level stuff, like what were there cartoons that influenced you? Did you have a relationship with nature?
I don't know if any cartoons influenced me. I just watched TV like every other kid did. There are a lot of Warner Brothers cartoons. I remember the Banana Splits. I remember Scooby Doo.
Yes.
Yeah. What else? Sigmund and the Sea Monsters and all that stuff that was on Saturday mornings.
Witchy Poo.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Sigmund. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Land of the Lost. I used to watch that a lot.
With the reptilians in the pyramids, with the crystals. Come on.
Yes.
It's disclosure right there.
HR Puffin stuff, Lidsville.
Yep. Watched all those things. As far as nature, my father got me involved in Cub Scouts and then Boy Scouts, so I camped a lot.
Oh, cool.
So I still do that occasionally with friends. We will go hiking and camping, and every once in a while I'll get on a kick. Not in a long time, but when in between being employed I was on a weekend shift. I used to go out to Utah for about 6 months. Every couple of weeks, I would go out to Utah and hike slot canyons by myself.
Oh, wow.
For like a week, I wouldn't see anybody. And I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's when the inner voice really comes out, I find, when you're alone in those kind of scenic areas, nature.
Yeah.
When are you going to go camping with Cleland?
Oh, I don't know. Did you hear that interview with him about his lightweight camping? Yeah. I don't think anybody ever talked to him about his camping stuff on a show. And I was like, hey, Mike, we were just talking about, because he was out here giving a lecture on lightweight camping and backpacking. So we talked about that for a while. And I found out he knows how to build an igloo. And he said, you should be carrying no more than 10 pounds of anything without your food and water. Everything should weigh 10 pounds. Like, what? And he told me how I could do that. That would be an incredible weight off my back, literally, if I could follow Mike's advice. Mike Cleland, have you had him on your show?
No, I sent him an invite. I never heard back, so I will hit him up again.
I'll bug him. I just emailed with him today.
Oh, thank you.
Tell him to search his inbox.
Okay,
he might have been one of the people I had to email through the contact form on their website, which sucks.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I used to do that to get interviews for Excluded Middle, and it was just
hello.
And you know what? This was in the 90s, and I never had a person say no to an interview. I could not believe my luck. But that was back when you had to actually call people, or it was the beginning of emails.
Yeah.
I mailed some people through the U.S. mail service to try and get interviews.
It's a whole other world.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because I had no other way of getting in touch with them. But they all said yes, from Joe McMoneagle to who was Dean Radin to Keith Thompson. All these Carla Turner, all these people, they were just willing to talk to me, and I could not believe it. And all I had to do was start a magazine with a couple friends and say, "Oh, you have a magazine." Like, I didn't get hired by one; I just started one. So,
and I'm sure that won't work today anymore.
So
no, it probably wouldn't.
Now. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else early? You'd have to bug me some more. But yeah, a lot of time out in nature. No, I never saw anything strange. I never saw a Bigfoot or a ghost or
ever.
Not out in Boy Scouts. I have experienced 2 different ghost things, and I've seen probably 2 UFOs, but one of them was probably half a mile away, and the other one was so far away it almost doesn't even qualify as a UFO, except I didn't know what it was, and it was flying.
What about the one that was a half a mile away? How long ago was that?
About 6 or 7 years ago. I was flying with a friend of mine. My paragliding instructor was getting a pilot's license. And so he said, anytime you want to come up in the plane with me, I said, just call me anytime. Anytime somebody says go flying, I say yes. And I was getting ready to start doing my pilot's license, so I wanted to go up in the plane with him. Anyway, the turbulence got so bad we went weightless in our seats a few times, and he said, I think we should go back. So we did.
Yeah. That's, oh God, I'm not a plane lover. That's crazy. Were you brought up in any kind of religion?
I was brought up at, as a, I think we went to Lutheran and Episcopalian churches. And the reason we did that was because my dad's a scientist. He's not particularly religious. And when my sister and I grew up, he stopped going to church. And I said, why'd you take us to church? And he said, it's part of the culture and you need to know it. If you choose to follow it, fine. If you don't, I don't care.
Yeah, I have heard that a lot of times from people. It is. I think that's even an old school mentality now.
Yeah, it is. And my dad's definitely old school. He was born in 1929. That's pretty old school.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That, yeah, that Lutheran, lots of Lutheran, I'm from the Midwest, so lots of Lutherans out there that just did it like you. It was just kind of something that they would take the kids to do, and it was not serious. It wasn't like
my dad's from Oklahoma, so yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know by chance? This is one of our kind of woo-woo questions, but are you Rh negative by chance?
I have no idea what my blood type is.
I didn't either. Actually, I mean, I remembered my mother saying universal donor, but I had to look up what that was.
I really want to have some specially printed blood tests for Nox Mente. Nox Mente blood tests. You could do it at home so we could have everyone's blood type.
Give us your blood. That'll create a conspiracy.
I got so bad. I went backtrack with my UFO story. I will finish it. I'm sorry. I got out of the plane. We landed. I got out of the plane. I got on the highway to go back home from Santa Barbara, which was where I was. I live in LA. And as I'm getting on the highway there, I look off to the right towards the beach because the Santa Barbara airport is right, the end of the runway. One of the runways goes over the beach. I look and there's this black thing about maybe half a mile away, and it's hexagonal, but it's hexagonal like spokes, like a cross and two crosses like that. And it looked like a wheel without a wheel around it. It was just spokes of a wheel, except they were thick. They were black. Yeah, no, it was thick. They were black, and they were shiny. I could see that when the sun was setting. I could see the orange sunlight shining on the facets. They were like hexagonal, like pencils, like faceted sides, and then pointed at the end like they were big, long, almost like long, skinny quartz crystals.
That's the image I have.
Yeah, they're all joined in the middle, and it was perfectly symmetrical, and it was just sitting there stock still in the air, probably 100 feet off the ground, at the end of one of the runways that we had just taken off from an hour ago. And I just looked at it and I said, wonder what that is. Then I got in my car and left.
Oh.
This is like a normal UFO thing, too. People just go, oh, well, that was a weird thing. And they just, why didn't I drive the half a mile for 3 minutes to go over there and look what that thing was? I did. It's like, I better get home. That's, not important.
Why didn't you take any picture?
Because I did not have a phone that had a good camera. I had a phone that had a camera in it, but it was really bad. It would have been a blob. And I didn't even think to take a picture. That's how ridiculous.
That's nobody thinks to. Even with like those great iPhone cameras, people don't.
Yeah.
They're like, oh.
Yeah, but so much of the time if by the time you do it, you've missed it too. Like digging around for the camera and turning.
Yeah. But it just sat there. It was still there when I left. I mean, I had no appointments or anything. I could have just driven right over there. And the next day I was like, what am I doing? So I called up the airport and I said, look, I saw something at the end of runway 15 yesterday. It was near the beach. It was probably in the flight path. I don't know what it was. Do you have any reports of anything like that? Nope. Nobody said a word. Did anybody see it? No, we didn't see anything. It's like, really? I saw it plain as day from not too much further than you guys were at the control tower. But no, they said they hadn't seen anything. I called UC Santa Barbara. It was right outside one of the entrances to UC Santa Barbara, and they said, we have nothing like that. We weren't testing anything. There's no class projects like that we know of. So nobody knew what it was. And it was just that one time.
So at the end of it, all of it, especially now it's like 7 years later, what do you make of it? And that includes this whole idea that you saw it, there were no reports of it. So it becomes a just you and it situation.
Yeah.
You observed it, and
Well, it was I don't know if anybody else saw it. No other cars were stopping or anything. So either nobody noticed, or I was the only one that saw it for some reason. And if I was the only one that saw it, I don't know what to make of that. And I'm not going to go into the aliens wanted me to see it. I don't know what the thing was.
I'm just
No.
trying to get. Yeah, I hear you there. We're with you. Matt.
Didn't you just talk about this with David, or at least in that last interview you put out, about how it's kind of a solo thing or it's a group thing? It's never always one thing, and there's always that
what I was
consciousness
talking about-
component to it.
Yeah, what I was talking about with David was something that's occupying me right now. And that's what I call co-creation. How much, when somebody has a weird experience, how much is coming from the person and how much is coming from the external stimulus?
Right.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of arguing that, the instrument for having a weird experience, you're seeing a UFO, is people. It's your mind, it's your nervous system, it's your memory, it's your visual system, any other senses you might have that are affected. And we're not machines. We're not recording devices. And if that's the case, then what is that throws into question all the databases based on people seeing whatever they saw. And when I say that, people say, "Oh, you say people are making things up." I said, I did not say that. I just said what they saw, and you can't rely on it as if it was picked up by a scientific instrument. It is very individualized.
It's
in a lot of
subjective. It's a
cases.
subjective thing.
It's very subjective in a lot of cases. And I think the closer you get to something, the closer something is to you, even more individualized it is. Far away, everybody can say that's a light, it's green, it's going that way. But if something's right in front of you, I think that, and I'm trying to look for evidence, there's some of it, that opinions of what is seen may start to diverge. And there's not too many really good, numerous multiple witness sightings close up. I don't think there's got to be a reason for that. And so I wrote an essay in UFOs Reframing the Debate called UFOs, the Co-Creation Hypothesis, where I kind of spell out where I'm starting from, and I'm continuing with that. The other thing I talked about was information theory, and that's the idea that our entire experience, our reality, everything is not made of atoms and atomic particles. It's made of information at the very basic level. And if that's the case, if you see something weird or something weird happens, it's not out of the question at all. Something weird would happen if your consciousness turns things into reality out of a basis of information. This sounds so new agey and silly and all that, but
It doesn't, though, because
it's not.
You're
Because
describing quantum mechanics.
that's part of quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics is like an observer effect. This is the observer effect turned up like to the 100th power.
It's a reflection pool instead.
Yeah. John Archibald Wheeler, the Nobel Prize winning physicist, wrote about what he called the anthropic controlled universe. I think that's what he called it, or anthropic principle, where he said the reason that everything exists is because we're here to observe it, and it creates, from a undifferentiated mass of information, creates what we experience as reality. That's a tough one.
About that a lot too.
Yeah, that's also falls into like a virtual universe or a holographic universe kind of theory as well.
I guess so, but yeah, exactly. I mean, and I'm reading a book called Information and the Nature of Reality, which is one of those ones where I'm not smart enough to read it right through. I have to read each page a couple times.
I just want you to know, everyone in chat right now is saying, it doesn't sound silly, we're on the same page.
So when I was asking that question, though, I was going more towards when you experienced it. Did it seem like, especially in retrospect, did it seem like it could be our tech, or did you go with it's outside of our ability as humans here on the earth?
I never thought of it that way while I was looking at it or afterwards. Do you know why? Because if I have any kind of weird experience, if I'm going to, this is what happened when I was doing the ghost hunt thing. I do not react to it. I try to not react to it with a notion that this is what I'm seeing. I try to keep my mind as open to the experience as possible for as long as I can. And I have made no decision about what that thing was. If it could have been some mundane thing that the school was testing, from some class, or it could have been something only I saw created out of my consciousness, or it could have been an alien spacecraft, or it could have been some government thing that they were testing. I do not know. All I know is I saw something that did not make any sense, hovering right where planes were taking off. Well, they weren't at that point because the winds were so bad, but planes would be taking off right from the airport, right through it. And it was over a salt marsh. Well, that's probably marsh gas.
Interesting. That's hilarious.
It really was over a salt marsh, actually.
That damn swamp gas.
Yeah.
Dude, it's good to remain open. I think that says a lot about you. Just in general.
I'm just going to force myself to remain open-minded as long as possible.
Yeah, me too. It's important. Okay, so and then just going back a little bit, back to your younger you. It doesn't have to be like first memories and stuff. So you already told us you don't recall your dreams a lot. Did you, as a younger person, were you dreaming a lot that you know of?
I think so. A lot of apocalyptic dreams, like, the bomb was dropping and everybody was dying. But I think a lot of people had those dreams then because they pounded that into your head.
Right.
Duck and cover.
Duck and cover. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that stuff was scary in school. You get under these flimsy ass, these little desks. Yeah, it's so funny to think about. So just because I like diving into dream imagery, those dreams that you do recall that were kind of in that vein, was there a theme with them, or did they
I don't remember. I really don't. It was always everybody's going to die and there's nothing you can do about it.
Interesting. And did they seem modern to your time?
Yes. They were always in the present with people I knew.
And okay. That also, I mean, that seems very much like, easily duck and cover the dayside world. And also back then, did you have, would you have called those nightmares?
Oh yeah. I woke up scared as hell from them. Yeah. I didn't like them at all. I would have to, sometimes run into my parents' room and all that stuff. So.
Did you ever hear?
What's funny? My mother told me one time we had a Japanese scroll hanging in the hallway. And if you walked by that scroll, the act of walking by that scroll would cause, the wind from you walking by it would cause it to gently hit the wall. You hear this click or clack or whatever. She said, at least on one occasion when nobody was in the house except all of us and we were all sleeping, she heard that thing in the hallway hitting the wall in the pitch dark when nobody was up.
Interesting.
She told me that one time.
And did she say what she thought?
No, she did not think it was anything. She thought it was a ghost.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That she thought it was an apparition of some sort. That's interesting.
She said she didn't see one or see anything. She just heard that noise, and she was like, she could have been totally asleep, and that might have been a dream or a hypnagogic state or something like that, or she may have been 100% awake. I told her, and I asked her, and she said, "Yeah, I was. As far as I knew, I was awake."
Oh, interesting. That I love that. See, that's the kind of stuff I just love. Okay, so and then back in there, back here, were you an only child?
One sister. She's still around.
Okay, cool. So the two of you.
Are you taking notes?
I always take notes because when we go further in, I like to make sure I'm not just relying on memory.
I'm just messing with you.
Which, Greg, is ironic, is one of the questions I have. Like, where's the distinction from early memories and then dreams? It all seems kind of related to me as far as our recall and intangibility.
Oh yeah, it gets confabulated. All these things mixed together, especially when you're a kid, when that veil between what's sleeping and waking and what's real and what's not real is not. Those distinctions are not nailed down yet. Not that those are the proper distinctions, but yeah, that veil it's much more permeable when you're a little child. Yeah.
Did you, and so when you were a little child, what was your stance on, how did you feel about ghosts and the paranormal back then?
I don't know what is the little child cutoff. I don't know.
Well, I guess preteen.
I believed 100% that all that stuff exists, and I still do, but in a different way.
How has it changed?
Um, that I have feedback from others and from the society and from my when I do stuff and people talk to me, whereas I didn't have that when I was a kid. So that I have to think about it in a little bit different way. Instead of a absolute innocent 100% belief in these things as all true, I have a trying to be absolute innocent uh, belief, not a belief, but well, I guess it is a belief, because how are you going to get confirmation unless something happens to you, that it is worth paying attention to, and it is worth serious study, and that it still interests me, because my basic makeup is I don't like it when people tell me what to think. I don't like it when people try to tell me a certain way, or I'm the authority or whatever. That irritates me.
Ditto.
But if somebody can say, look, let's talk about this, logically, let's hash these ideas around, let's that I love. But yeah, blind belief or blind not skepticism, but blind skepticism is another type of belief too. They're just both sides of the same coin. That's been pointed out many times.
Yes.
So they're both belief systems, and that's why my magazine was called Excluded Middle. We tried to live in that area where we neither totally believe something nor totally were skeptical about it, or not even skeptical, but anti-belief. That's not even skepticism is fine. Fundamentalist skepticism or anti-belief is the opposite to me of pure believerism.
I like that distinction needs to be, in my opinion, should be more widespread. There is a difference between anti-belief and skepticism. Skepticism is questioning, I'm like,
Yeah. You know what skepticism is leaving your mind open for as long as possible until you've got so much information that you just can't hold you can't hold back your acceptance of something. But the thing is, once you accept it, more information may become available later that changes your, and that's constantly evolving, and it should be. If you lock yourself into a belief system, you've automatically shut down any new information. And I'll give you an example. I had Chris Lambright on my show recently, and he did some of the same research I did about Paul Bennewitz and the Project Beta thing. He found out stuff that I didn't know, and he pointed out where I'd probably made some mistakes. I had him on my show to point out those mistakes, and we talked about it. And I want to hear new information, as long as somebody's not attacking me or jumping down my throat or saying you're full of crap or whatever. New information is always welcome. New, pure, accurate as possible information is always welcome, because how else are you gonna find out any answer to a mystery or progress in your understanding? You can't. You have to keep listening.
I agree. Not only is it welcome, it's exciting, I think.
Yeah.
I like it when my views get to shift, that mutability of something new coming in that's credible, to me at least.
Yeah, I like to think that too about myself. I don't know if it's true 100% of the time.
Well, yeah.
I try to be on guard. I try to be on guard against too much belief in me or preconceptions.
It can't, it's weird how our experiences can really cement down a conviction, and that in and of itself can be a trap, which closes off new information.
Yeah. Anytime anybody tells me they know what's going on and they have the answer, I run away as quickly as possible. And that's what I tell other people to do.
Absolutely. Man. So back in this kind of earlier phase, not necessarily young, just an earlier phase in your life, the idea of Actually, let's open this up to at any point. Have you experienced people you know that have passed in dreams?
No, because I don't know too many people that have passed away, really. I've been pretty lucky most of my life.
You have. Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, it seems like half the people I know are dead.
Yeah, well, my parents are in their late 80s, so I'm not going to that bubble of fantasy will not be operating for too much longer.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely adds new information to your sphere.
I've had friends that have died. Mac Toney's, my friend that wrote the Cryptoterrestrials, died. That was very startling to me. I think he was 32. Um, I've had people I know in my paragliding community that have died, but I've never been really close to that many of them. But it's just startling every once in a while, a couple times a year. Oh, so and so got in a crash and died. What? And it's
Yeah.
going to happen, but it's just kind of startling.
Yeah.
Usually they're people that take risks and not the people that are just kind of, I'm not flying outside of my my area of skill. So
Yeah.
that's how I treat it. And God, I can't really think of too many other people that have passed away with it. Really, my friend Mario Pozzoglini, who studied alien writing, he died in 1999 of pancreatic cancer, and that was
That's a terrible cancer.
yeah, and that was like being, some of these things. It's just I didn't even know he was sick, and so it's like a punch in the stomach, So
Yeah, when it's sudden, it's worse when it's sudden because you have to get grips on it. It's shattering, especially the closer they are. It seems to me like in the last decade, most of the people I know have passed in their 30s from cancers. A lot of brain cancers now, which is interesting. Just to know who knows what they're from, but I'm noticing
Cell
a trend.
phones.
Yeah, I think my friend Tammy that just passed a couple months ago, hers was right there where she'd hold her phone and talk for years. So it seems an
Oh, okay.
obvious, it seems obvious, but who knows? Okay, so and then in general with the dreamscape, what what does it generally look like? And so what I'm looking for here is like the architecture of it, like the color. Do you see color? Is there is there solid architecture? Do you experience like scent and other sensory? How is it? How is it in a sensory sense?
Touch is there, color is there, um, smell and taste. I don't think so. I don't remember such things. If I could probably have a lucid dream if I could have those things. Um, but yeah, it's all everything's solid, although strange. Stuff that I can remember. It's just strange situations with familiar people. I've had a couple dreams about that researcher Jacques Vallée where he talked to me a bit. One time he showed me, what was it? He showed me blocks of metal,
Ooh.
shiny blocks of metal with little raised bumps on them, like you would see, like Braille, but they weren't Braille. And I can't remember what he said about them, but for some reason I thought they might be important.
It
That's
sounds
what,
like glyphs, really, to me. That's amazing.
yeah, kind of like that. And I respect his work quite a bit. So there's been a couple of dreams with him, and one of them I think I was feeling ill, and he didn't heal me. But after I talked to him, I didn't feel ill anymore.
When you woke up?
No, in the dream.
Within the dream. Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I don't know because there's such a thin line, really.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though. I love that. So he's kind of like, and do you think of him like that as a teacher sort?
Oh yeah, I mean it's he's kind of a personal hero of mine as far as
Mentor.
not even a mentor because I don't know him that well, but as a UFO researcher and his ideas that were first proposed in the 1960s that people are still catching up with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's a genius. That's fascinating, though. I love that. And so in the architecture, like, and now when I say architecture, now I'm talking about structures like buildings. Have they in your recall that you have, do they shift at all? So say a house you go to it's your house, but it's now different, but it's still your house. Or does the imagery remain fixed?
Things will change within the dream, but I don't remember ever being. Mostly, it's places that I am unfamiliar with. They're not places where I've been before.
And what about like fantastical stuff, like, like Disney stuff, like just that's clearly dream imagery that's separate from waking, this kind of solid
Um,
world?
the one when you say that, the only thing that comes to mind was during some dreams. It seems like like an MC Escher universe where there's stairways going everywhere.
Ooh,
That's just the
insane.
one I remember. I mean, there's hundreds of dreams. 99% of the time I don't remember my dreams. The only time I remember is either, I remember it during a light sleep or the REM or whatever. If I can hold on to it when I wake up and try and remember it, then I'll remember it. But if not, it's gone.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah. And
and
that's the whole memory thing.
sometimes I'll have a dream. It's like, I really got to remember this. So I will sit there for 10 or 15 minutes and just go over the dream over and over and over and over until it's locked into my conscious memory as much as possible. I don't write it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever works for you. It's even what you value. So on the dream, do you remember any details on the one with the staircases everywhere?
I remember that I was writing something and I kept having to come and show it to somebody and see what they thought of it. Then I'd go back to this room up this set of strange stairs, and it was almost like a medieval village, but not exactly like a medieval village. I mean, it was planned like a medieval village on a hill, like you'd see in Italy or something like that.
Hmm.
But everything was stairs. There were no roadways or cobblestone streets or anything. Everything was stairs to everywhere.
So with that, was it frustrating?
No, I
So
just
you knew where
navigate.
you were going.
Yeah, I navigated like I knew where I was going. It didn't bother me at all. It was like
I
I
like
lived
that.
there.
Yeah, it's like possibility. Like I think of that as like possibilities
Yeah, well, that's
in
my
my own
general.
little world.
Yeah, that's my general idea about things. I mean, you can do anything you want pretty much within reason. Although I have had arguments with people in their 20s. It's like, you can do anything you want no matter who you are. It's like, no, you can't be Einstein. You can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't. You can't be Michael Jordan. You can't be, Babe Ruth. You can't be. Those are just people that just they get the genetic dice rolled properly for them, and a whole bunch of other factors come together. But
Indeed. Don't you think that's part of our current, like the snowflake paradigm, where you can
I
be
guess
anything you
so.
want? Or
Well, that's a nice thing to tell kids, but when you grow up, you start realizing, no, I've got some limitations. I've got to work within those. I can do pretty much anything I want within some limitations. If you suck at writing and you keep trying to write and nobody's listening and nobody wants to publish you probably shouldn't be writing, no matter how much you can train yourself to write or whatever it is. I mean, I've had friends like that. It's like, well, what do I'm going to keep writing till I'm good at it. Well, you're not. I mean, you better try something else. I mean, if you try hard enough, you could probably get to a level of competence. Anybody
right,
can do that.
right, technically.
But anybody can't be Truman Capote. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I really adhere to the idea of what, we have talents, we have a predisposition towards certain things, and it's nice to recognize them earlier.
yeah.
um so okay, so back in the dreamscape, is there have there been things, and this is for we're out of your childhood now, have there been things that seem, have you done, like when you're working on a book, and have you gotten any aid from the dream realm, working things out within the dream that helped the project you were working on? I call it a download, um, but any assist or a way of working it out in a dream, and then you wake up and you kind of have the answers you need or a direction to explore.
I'm just laughing because you're getting through all this, and I'm going to say no.
Wait, really?
I guess I should, but I kind of power through it. It's like, okay, I need to do this, so let's.
You've never had a dream inspire an idea for a book or a show or music or any creative act or any content?
Not
creation?
that I can remember.
Really?
No, I mean, they may have, and I'm just not aware of it. I don't know. I mean, I'm not conversant with my dreaming life. Maybe I should be. It Defies Language, the book the last
Mhm,
book
mhm.
that I did, you were talking about. I could not think of a title for that book, and then Miguel, Red Pill Junkie, my artist, that's the first book cover he did, which is like mind-blowingly amazing book cover to me.
We know RPJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he at one point he's like, dude, you gotta come up with a name here. I gotta finish this cover if you want to get it out at the time you want. You gotta come up with a name for the book. I was like, oh no. So I didn't dream on it. I took something, I took my introduction and I put it in an online cut up generator. And
Oh,
I
interesting.
just started reading it. I put myself in kind of a non judgmental state, and I just started reading the cut up that came out of the cut up generator, and anytime a phrase came up I'd write it down without thinking, and I got like 10 or 12 phrases, and one of them was It Defies Language, and I thought, okay, that's perfect, because I'm talking about a subject that I don't that has the language a lot of these subjects have the language limits how you think about it. Language limits how you think about anything because you have to
Yes.
conceptualize it in the words. So I just thought it was really funny as kind of a joke to call a book called It Defies Language. So I thought, okay, that's perfect.
But it's also the
Yeah, it
perfect
is.
name for it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that act of divination, if you will, whatever you did, is essentially what kind of we're asking about. Because it's the same process, I think, but you're in an awake state.
Yeah, I mean, it's I just tried to, I like Burroughs a lot. He's one of my heroes for his thought and his philosophy. And I thought, why don't I? And Mac Tony's and I used to talk about doing cut ups, and we did them quite a lot together, and just kind of cracked up and did these little projects just between us as jokes almost. But one of them was, we found these online cut up generators, and we used to put our writing through it and just crack up. We'd put like Christian fundamentalist stuff through, and right wing and left wing political stuff through, and astronomy articles, and just see what came out. And we had fun with that. And I remembered that, and I said, why don't I use this as a tool to try and figure out a title for the book? And that's what tumbled out.
Very cool.
So within this kind of within this aspect of our conversation, what about and I know your dream imagery is limited, so and we haven't even gotten into the philosophical stuff, how you feel about what they are and all this. Have you ever been able to manipulate the qualities within the dream? Now, I know a lot of times that's a call to lucidity or actual lucidity, a higher level of it. But have you been able to change outcomes, have any control within it, within a dream?
No, I've never done any lucid dreaming. Although somebody gave me, what was that stuff that's supposed to that substance that's supposed to help your lucid dreaming, but I never took it.
Salvia?
No, not salvia. I have had salvia.
Melatonin?
No, it was something else. I can't remember the name of it, but it's supposed to enhance and
LSD?
no, that's not dreaming at all. That's waking dreaming. But I can't remember the name of it, but I didn't take it. Not that I'm against that. I mean, I've had psychedelics, and but I just didn't use that stuff. I can't remember what it's called. It's some plant from South America, I think. It's not illegal, but it's supposed to help lucid dreaming.
Like kratom, maybe? I don't know.
Nope.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm drawing a blank. There's so many different things people take. What about and this is something we talk about a lot too. We explore psychedelics with people who are willing to talk about it.
I'll talk about it. I don't care.
We love those stories. So, did you have any? What's been your general experience with psychedelics overall?
Pretty positive. I've only had one bad experience.
And that bad experience, what made it bad?
A friend with me who wouldn't stop yelling.
Okay.
That didn't help.
Yeah. Was your friend having a bad experience?
No, he was having a great experience, but he was ruining mine.
Oh, oh yeah, that'll do it. So outside of that, though, they were positive. Did you have what was like the most outlandish stuff?
I really can't think of anything that's really outlandish. I mean, there's things like, we were out in the desert, Joshua Tree, and we were banging on rocks and the rocks were ringing. And they're just big solid rocks out in Joshua Tree. Why should a rock be ringing? But they sounded like bells. I thought it was wonderful.
So you haven't done the heroic 5-gram mushroom dose to meet the elves?
No, I don't think. Yeah, the elves are the DMT. One time I did DMT, I didn't do enough for the elves, but it certainly was. It's DMT is like being shot out of the top of your head through a cannon. I mean, it's just you just think, because psychedelics, you're like, oh, it's coming on. I guess I better get ready. This is kind of weird. I don't like it. DMT is like, okay, I'm breathing it in now. Bam, you're out of your body. Like, ah! It's like somebody literally shot you out of the top of your head. And there is no question whatsoever that you are going. You can't hold on to anything. You can't. And I did it one time, and that all I did was I floated above the ceiling like it was a moonscape. Those what is it called? Cottage cheese ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the texture.
Yeah,
the blow.
Yeah, it was like flying over a moon of some planet, and that ceiling was the surface, and it was all these crags and valleys.
So because you didn't take a second hit, you were limited to your room? Is that what you're saying? You were like stopped at the ceiling when you shot out?
Well, I didn't think it was a ceiling. I just suddenly was flying over it like I was in a spaceship.
I gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even think it was a ceiling. It was just like, oh, I'm on some planet somewhere. And then slowly I came back to my friend sitting there next to me to make sure I didn't go nuts.
Did it feel like a lot of time had passed?
No, the time was not dilated. It just seemed like, for 5 minutes I was doing something else, and then I came back.
I'm so leery. I haven't tried it. I want to try it. I have some sort of weird fear about it.
I'm terrified of doing it. So
it doesn't mess with you. I mean, it doesn't mess around.
Yeah, that's the thing that's so intense. At least with LSD, which I did a lot of a long time ago. You described it well. It's coming on. You feel a little twinkle, and then you kind of ease into it.
Yeah. And then before you know it, everything's cool or horrible or whatever you want. But DMT is just like, it's like sitting in a at one of those rides where that when it starts, you're strapped in and there's nothing to do about it. You can't go, no, let me off. I guess you can. But for DMT,
right, and then they'll have a bad experience.
No, let me. Yeah, you can scream no, let me off all you want, but you're going.
Yeah. Yep. I love that analogy with the roller coaster when you're just like click, click, click up to the very top. You know how it pauses, and there's no option. You have no choice. You're going to go over the edge.
Yeah, and it's bang. And I said literally, it was like there was something behind, like a big spring that just shot me out through the top of my head. I've never talked about this on a show, so there you go.
That's great though, and it's a lot of experiences like this that are making me more comfortable and wanting to try it because I do want to do it. I think I need to, I think
I didn't go schizo.
Yeah, clearly.
No, it's got to be pretty safe. Your body produces it. So.
Yeah, I mean it's not gonna drive you crazy forever or whatever. I mean I've never heard anybody that just said, oh no, it was like for days afterward I was screwed up. No. I mean it's over in 5 minutes. It used to be called the businessman's high or something.
I personally I'm not frightened of putting strange drugs in my system. I have no problem with that. It's the getting shot out of the top of your head, being in another space, that whole ego death thing kind of, at this point, I'm not ready for it. So, I mean, I would never do it because of that. I
don't know. I've never had an ego death. It's always like, I've always had some at least tenuous connection to an I, even if it's barely.
Right. Mm-hmm. And in the higher doses of DMT or mushrooms, even in acid, you'll get people who say they dissociate completely.
Well, I've dissociated, but it's never. Oh, you mean from an ego being I? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever have. I've always like, here's a good thing. You don't care that there's an I, but there still is one there.
Right. Exactly. But for me personally, I know that I've never done that. And to me, it's like I don't think I can. Like I can't split that way.
Yeah.
And I've taken a lot of acid, so I mean,
I don't think if you get to that point, it might be like DMT. You don't have a choice; it's just going to happen.
Yeah,
I've experienced that point, and that is part of what created a couple of very bad experiences for me. I lost because there's a sense of losing control then with your ego or your persona at least.
Yeah.
And that's when I actually stopped, when I started to have those experiences like once, twice, and I wasn't going to do it again
Yeah.
because it felt like I kept going further away, and that something in my cognitive mind is like, oh my God,
Am I going to
schizophrenia,
come back?
association. Yeah. Am I going to be that woman, rambling on the corner talking crazy? And that it's a
Yeah.
control thing.
Yeah, I've found this too. If something bad's going on and you don't like it, it's just kind of like you have to either, if you're heroic yourself, and just say, look, this is temporary. There's a drug going on, and actually, you know what? When I spoke to this guy that was like a heroic DMT taker, and I said, we were sitting there talking about it, and we were talking about ego death type stuff. And I can swear on this show, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. He said, we were talking about that, and I told him, look, I've been on trips where I think, am I ever going to come back? What's going to happen? Where am I going? And then, at a certain point, you just kind of let go. And I looked at him and I said, and you say, so fucking what? And we both said it at the same time and high-fived each other.
That's a great synchro. That's good.
And it's funny. It's like, and I just say to myself, and like, it was like somebody scripted it. We both said it at the same time. And it's the only way to keep from having a bad trip. You just kind of like, well, whatever happens, happens.
Right. I understand that now. I could probably do LSD again now, but it was so
Yeah, I haven't in a year. It's like 20.
Oh, it's been like 20 years. Yeah, for me too. Because those were terrible. Those experiences were absolutely where you write it out, and it's hours of writing it out. So
that's when you spark up a nice fat joint.
Yeah. It's you got to enjoy the ride. I mean, it's just kind of like, look, you know what? If something happens, so what? If I never come back, so what?
Yeah, I'm definitely at that state now, but the younger me was, I don't know. The experiences were so terrible. I don't even have words. I can still like get a physical sensation thinking on them, how terrible they were. Mm-hmm. And they also involved like these like demons and crazy stuff. This is in San Francisco. It was unbelievable, some of the imagery.
She has a dark past.
It's and I'm an explorer. So also in this vein of thought, what do you think this is just, and of course this shows it's about opinion. So what do you think the function or service of dreaming is? And also this is kind of a segue into altered states of consciousness, which we were just talking about. What is the function that it serves as separate from what we're considering waking life?
Probably many, many, many different ones. Reintegration with self, making sense of what's ever going on in your subconscious mind and in your life, dealing with stress, and then maybe at a higher level, connecting to realms that are non-time and space based, and it's accessible to everybody, unlike doing drugs. I think in a lot of ways, if you're a shaman or somebody that's like fulfills that role, you're basically dreaming for the whole society. There's so many issues around dreaming. I think I wish I was more of a dream explorer or researcher or whatever, but from my perspective, limited perspective, those are kind of the main issues.
So also kind of moving into this a little deeper, where do you think your consciousness actually lies? Is it attached to your id or your I? Is it elsewhere?
Local or non?
Yeah, thanks, Jer.
Thank you. Yeah, I would go with non. There's more evidence coming for that, and plus, it's more exciting for me to think of it in that way, and it opens up so many more possibilities that consciousness is non-local, and it makes it it would make sense in in light of people having premonitions, out-of-body experiences, near death, reincarnation, all those things. If you start talking about a non-local consciousness, start to make a lot more sense.
Absolutely. I personally think that the subconscious is connected to that cloud, if you will, the cloud of consciousness. And the left brain is your logical, that runs your body and lets you interface with that and keeps it away. Like in my mind, that's the veil, is the separation of left and right brain. The right brain or the subconscious, that's like open to everybody. So you can access everyone else too with the right whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that would facilitate all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. The sleeping is available to everybody. And I think that maybe if you're, left brain, your right brain will take over during that and sort of reintegrate, some of your separation of those two.
Balance it out. And
balance it out. I mean, maybe it works better for some people than others, or they just snap right back into that logical left brain thing when they come back. I was talking with a friend today about different societies, and she's about to move to Italy. And I said, that's more of a right brain society. I mean, just look at it. You go there, and it's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like, absolutely.
We want our environment when we're here to look beautiful and to look more like something we are pleased to see. And if this country or Britain or I'm trying to think, got more of a Western country, Western orientation, or at least British orientation. Canada, you've got a little less of that. You've got a little more of a left brain society working. And if that balance goes away, I think you start to have problems. And then there's societies that are probably far too right-brained, and they sometimes get taken over and overrun by the left-brained societies.
So within all this, what are your thoughts on? So these things run together. So I'm gonna name them out, and it's all kind of where we are talking in this realm: deja vu, synchronicities, reincarnation. Where are you within the parameters of those ideas?
I don't know what to say. I'll try and take it one by one. You'll probably have to remind me. Deja vu, I guess, my idea right now, these are always open to being changed later.
Yes.
But the deja vu thing is either, you can look at it in a couple different ways. One is it's just your subconscious making connections with things that normally wouldn't be made connected, but you had cueing in your environment. Or two, you have become unstuck from time, and that when the time doesn't matter anymore, you've got you can make associations, and those associations are deeper and more meaningful than just remembering something. So it seems like it's more of a numinous experience. What were the other two?
So synchronicity.
Synchronicity, yeah. I'm more interested in synchronicity because I think synchronicity is very individual. And I think that a lot of this weird stuff you have to look at it as an individual experience. You can't start doing a big study and saying, this stuff happens to these people. Yes, in a general way, but not the individual experience is far more meaningful to the person that's having it. And synchronicity has got to be one of the most, personal individual experiences of all, because you don't often find, I can't think of a whole group having a synchronicity, but people have them all the time. And if to me, friends of mine and for myself, if they start to build up, if a lot of them happen at once, I sit up and take notice and try and figure out what's going on at that point, because I've reached some kind of nexus of meaning that may be important to me at the time. And it may be, as a divination tool or something, it may be time to act or time to pay attention or whatever. But it makes you a little bit more aware for a while. And I think that's good no matter what. And there may be a deeper pattern there where if you do pay attention, it will have some significance, hopefully a positive significance in your life.
Sure, and that expanded awareness can always be patterns in your head for later.
Yeah,
smaller individual patterns. Yeah.
I rambled a bit on that. What was the third one?
reincarnation.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on that a little bit earlier. I think I think there's a lot of compelling. Carl Sagan, for Christ's sake, was his last book in Demon Haunted World. He said there is compelling evidence for reincarnation. Carl Sagan. So he
Einstein,
said that,
couldn't get over the ether, so same thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I think, that's okay. I mean, you interrupt me whenever you like, but I think that's another, it's an example of non-local consciousness, of non-time and space-based consciousness not being based in space or time, but somewhere else. There is, there's a guy named, I think, Ian Stevenson. For years, he did scientific research, as scientific as he could be, on children that said they had been reincarnated. So he would, find a kid that was in England, India, wherever, that had very specific memories of some other life, and then he would locate that other person's relatives, and they'd have to be people they had never met, didn't know about, whatever. Sometimes there were 5 villages over, sometimes they were in the next, in the next country or whatever. I don't know how he found these people, but he would question them separately, and there were very specific correlations between what the child was saying and what this person's life was, and the people they knew, and all that. He knew people, the child would know people's names, know who his mother was, all that stuff. So there's extremely compelling evidence for it, and if there is evidence for it, and it is true, I think it is an example of consciousness being non-physical, non-local, and just we're kind of like knots in a net, like that Indra's net of some kind of lattice work of consciousness, coincidence, whatever you want to call it, and those little knots are our consciousness. I sound like a crazy person now.
You sound absolutely normal to me. Yeah, really.
Yeah, you are kind of crazy. So in the idea of
nobody ever asked me these questions, so thank you.
Well, we're glad you're just here and participating of this subject. So in the idea of reincarnation, synchronicities, deja vu, looking at your life of dreaming, the dreams you can just recall vaguely, were there, besides these early ones of like the disaster stuff, have you had reoccurring dreams or experienced reoccurrence at all?
Never. I've never had a precognitive dream. I've never had a recurring dream. I've never had a dream that continues on for where it left off. None of those that I remember.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I kind of knew, because I mean, you already prefaced that you don't dream a lot, so
I might, but I just don't remember them properly. I don't make an effort to remember.
You do. I really believe everyone does. It's just a matter of recall and how all that functions out. So I've got this idea of word association, and you might find it funny, but I like it, and I do it from time to time. So if you'll play along with me.
Okay,
So
I'll
just
play
like
along. I feel like somebody's gathering a bunch of information on me for use later.
I am, but I'm doing it in context of trying to get into your dream world and understand dreams for myself. Because in the end, this is all about me.
Hey, my show's all about me, so whatever.
It's like, I'm trying to understand myself. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, it's not all about me. It's what I'm interested in. And if other people are interested in it, then that's great. That's icing on the cake. So go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Well, you're a trailblazer too, one that we look up to. Okay, so deep water.
Oh, you want me to give a
just like the first thing that pops in your mind.
Sharks.
Scary. Deep space.
Insight Lander.
Okay, and then the deep woods.
Wolves.
Ooh, nice.
What's with all the deep?
Well, because I want it to be like out remote.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm thinking collective, the collective. Wolves is super cool. You're the first person with wolves. That is awesome. Those were kind of like the thing. So I wanted to go, and so now I just want to look at these. So deep water, the idea of deep water, and especially with all the stuff you talk about anyway, what do you think about what's possibly going on in these regions we cannot access?
Which regions? What are you talking about?
The deep water, deep ocean, deep sea.
Strange forms of life live there that light up funny. Well, and on the other hand, I'm sure that the navies of various worlds are finding ways, have already found ways to use these deep areas for to hide things from other countries. And
Well, I'm sure you've heard the stories of all the underground bases, like in Malibu.
Yeah, which I think is BS, but
who knows? I've heard that there's submarine tunnels that go in from Malibu out to Los Alamos or some crazy place like that. But who knows?
I've heard about that too, but there's absolutely no way to prove it, so I don't really know what to do about that.
Yeah, I consider
it'd be incredibly convenient.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know what to think about either. I don't know what to think about any of that stuff.
Well, none of us do, and that's why it's really fun to ponder, and that's why we like to ponder, because in the end, I mean, we don't have anything proving anything to us about deep space, really, and about deep water and all this.
Deep space, big.
Well, I believe we have sent probes to other planets, and I'm pretty sure we went to the moon. I'm almost certain of that, and I'm sorry that I'm not too conspiratorial about that kind of stuff. Stuff I'm conspiratorial about is, owning people's perceptions and things like that. That's the kind of stuff that bothers me.
And there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Well, even about like deep space, I don't consider our solar system here deep space. So where we've sent probes, I think when I'm thinking deep space, I'm thinking out beyond.
Oh, okay. I should have said Oort cloud. But even beyond that, because that's still the solar system.
Yeah, exactly.
Interstellar space, I believe, is the correct term.
Yes.
Which is just mind blowing. Is just a meditative idea, is to get your mind out, way out past that. It's crazy.
The only reason I said Insight Lander is because I've been watching it and it's fascinating to me. And when it lands, when it landed on another planet, I cried. I can't believe that. When I see a probe that went to, what was it? Saturn went to.
Sorry.
The lander that landed on a moon of Saturn. I can't remember which one it was. And there was methane ice and seas, and it was looking at this as it landed. That to me that was like looking at a great piece of art.
That was in Psychedelics. It was the one with the methane seas. I remember that lander. Yeah.
I remember one time on my show I played. They had a sped up recording of the radar as it approached the surface, as it was bouncing back and forth, and it just sounded like woo, and then it stopped when it landed on the ground. And it was just a very weird, stupid noise. It's like, that's the sound of a probe landing on another moon of another planet, a moon of another planet. Oh my God! To me, for some reason, that I get off on that.
That's cool. It was Cassini on Titan.
That's it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm not typing while I'm talking to you.
So the idea of this is, I don't know if I've got the language. What do you think about cryptoids and all of that? Is it cryptoids, Jerry?
Cryptids.
I always get that wrong.
What do I think about them?
That's like Sasquatch and like Nessie, stuff like that.
I think there's an external stimulus that people see. Past that, I'm not exactly sure what they are. But then I'm not a Bigfoot researcher, so if I was sitting out in the woods and something came up next to me and screamed in my ear, I probably wouldn't express that opinion to you. My opinion would be, "Oh my God, they're real." So
they could very well.
I do think this stuff is real. It is something that people experience. It's not coming from inside their heads. And I do think there's an intelligence associated just with it, just like I think for Bigfoot anyway, just like I think the UFO thing. There is an intelligence associated with it. Past that, I'm not sure what form that takes. I think we put our own metaphors on it. For Bigfoot, I think we might be putting our own metaphors on it, but it may be a little bit more complicated than that, because it's seemingly closer to home and closer to us, being an anthropoid type thing. And people have endlessly discussed, is it an evolutionary form? Is it something that we're thinking of as our evolutionary form? Is it, I don't know. I just know that there's something that is there. There's something that's been seen all over the world that is not human, that is humanoid apparently, and that can apparently appear and disappear at will, and also has physical properties. I had David Weatherly on my show. We were talking about Weatherly, and I said, actually, we were just sitting in a hotel room. I said, "Hey, Dave, let's go do an interview." I just put a digital recorder in between us, and I said, and then there was a pause in the conversation. I said, "Dave, Bigfoot, paranormal or physical? Go." And he said, "Why can't it be something physical that actually has paranormal abilities?" Exactly. I said, "I never thought about it that way. That's pretty cool.
Why can't it be an indigenous species that we just don't understand?"
Yeah, that is able to do things like, walk behind a tree and disappear, or, whatever it is. It has paranormal power. But, it can walk into some other space or time. I mean, that's a really crude way of
a pocket dimension
describing it. Yeah, as if we're walking through a door. It's like, I want to go through that door, but the Bigfoot or Sasquatch or whatever says, I want to be in that time. I don't like it here right now. So they just go that way. And it's just an inherent property of what they do. It's an idea. I don't know if it's true.
It would explain the missing 411 phenomenon, not the Bigfoot thing specifically, but the fact that there could be pocket dimensions or a way to get into another space.
Yeah.
With whatever.
Yeah, it could be. And who knows, there may be window areas that either are there all the time, or maybe they, move around or whatever. I do not know. But these things tend to cluster around certain geographic areas a lot of the time. So I just don't think we're conversant with how to mess with that stuff yet.
Or even talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to think of some cryptids, though, as, well, to me, they're really tulpas, like that Slender Man or Mothman, those kind of things that pop up after it becomes popular in the collective, if you will, right? So after those two girls got convicted of the Slender Man murders in Wisconsin or wherever that was, people started seeing Slender Man in the streets, and then a movie came out about it recently. So these people who are seeing it, I think those are kind of things are more projections, tulpa type things that they see versus a Bigfoot, which may actually be an entity that shares this container.
Sure, I wouldn't argue with you about that. Sorry.
I wasn't looking for an argument. It was more about...
I agree with you on that. I don't know if I would have too much to add.
I was saying that we need to separate the language of cryptid, at least make categories. There's different aspects of it.
Yeah, definitely. There's different things. I mean, there's all kinds of things all over the world. Cultures have different ideas about. They all have strange creatures that seem to inhabit, this world and another world that are physical and non-physical, and and they're present in every culture. So, I don't think it's coming out of people's imaginations. I think they've been with us forever, as long as there's been people. Maybe before that.
Maybe they're the...
Maybe.
What's your relationship with time as far as a concept, philosophically?
I'm almost always on time.
Yes, well, you were tonight.
Well, the thing is, that's not a joke. I mean, to put the meat of your question aside for a second, when I worked on Project Beta, I had to meet with government people and spies and all that. If you're late, they won't talk to you. If you're 30 seconds late, if you're 10 seconds late, they will not talk to you, or they'll be really annoyed because that's an insult to them.
Yeah.
And I carried that into my normal life. And so now I think I might be late once every month for anything. I always I have to be on time for this thing. And I will be there when the second hand reaches the thing on my watch.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
The door.
That's always been instilled in me.
Really? It's a little anal, but after a while I realized if I'm not there on time, I'm disrespecting the person that expects me to be there.
Absolutely.
It's like saying my time is more valuable than yours.
It actually triggers me when people are real lackadaisical about appointments and stuff like that. And I hate to say the word triggers, but it's like we set up a time. We set up a time to meet. There's a meeting. It doesn't matter if it's important or not. We set this time up.
Yeah.
Be there.
Yeah. So that's my idea about normal time. But as for time flow and the time as a concept, I can't explain it in words right now because was explained to me in words by Dean Radin when I interviewed him in 1996. He sat with me for 5 hours and convinced me that time was an illusion. Now, I can't repeat what he said. I can't even conceptualize what he said when he told me because I understood it finally.
Mm.
But that, time was a human construct and that it is not what we think it is. And it is not an immutable law that time flows from future to past. I'm reading a book now called Time Loops about retrocausality, which is something that's fascinating to me right now too, where something in the future can affect something in the past as we experience it.
Yes. Yes.
But outside of that time flow, it doesn't matter, and it becomes more like where and something Radin told me where meaning is a dimension. Meaning is more important. Something that has personal meaning to you will transcend the time barrier or the space barrier. Even it's like seeing somebody that you said about you were bringing up earlier about did I know somebody that died close to me? I knew where you were going with that, and no, I haven't seen an apparition of somebody I know or had a premonition or anything like that. Although when Mac Tony's died, actually, I knew when somebody called me that that's what they were going to say.
Oh, really? So you did have a premonition?
Yeah, I've had one. Nick Redfern called me and told me that Mac had died, and he called me at 12:30 at night, and he never called, or maybe 1 a.m, and he never calls me that time. He's usually asleep, and he called me, and it's when I picked up the phone, I said, "Oh shit, Mac died," and he said that immediately right after. And I didn't even know, and he wasn't sick or anything. He just had a heart condition and he died in his sleep. But that was, one sort of premonition I had, but it was right before it was a split second before.
But that doesn't matter. It's the fact that you actually did perceive it.
Yeah.
It's a
exactly.
shift in your world in a way. So with this idea too, so the idea that, and I'm with the time thing here, so we really are congruent. I'm curious. So what is the now, the waking life? How do you perceive this experience that we're all collectively agreeing on is happening as a now?
Here's your dead air. I have no idea.
We're not afraid of dead air.
It is. It is more important than what's coming or what came before, but I don't know what the now is. The now is what you should stay in as much as possible. That's about the only thing I could think of to say about it at this time.
So you're warm to reincarnation, obviously. So what about the concept of past lives? And if there's no time, then they're really simultaneous lives, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, that could be, if you're going to think about it in the model that we're proposing right now, that would be on the table.
That tied into your question, which I already forgot.
But this all ties back into where I'm going with this is meaning in time. How the thing that I find that's important with the idea of time, the concept of time or construct, however you want to look at it, is that it's meaning that rises up out of everything, and in the meaning, which could be tied into ideas of synchronicity or deja vu, even reincarnation. That's where we find like these checkpoints in time because something becomes meaningful, and so where I'm going with this is if something becomes meaningful, we've attached whatever psychic content onto an event or a place or a time, then how stable does that become in the end? Do you know what I'm saying? So like you have a dream that's really significant and it sticks out. You can still remember these details years later. Something was there that was bigger than you may have perceived. What is that about? Not sure that I made myself clear.
Well, probably not. But what it's about is the meaning it has for you. You're not going to have unless you're a really good psychic, you're not going to have a premonition of something that doesn't have any personal connection to you. There has to be some sort of personal connection, or it is meaningless to you. And if it's meaningless, it's not in your. You cannot make that connection. You don't have the search term.
Hmm.
So I think meaning, a personal meaning of something, is the most important part of the connection that will take you out of the time bind, if that makes sense.
So if we look at it from the aspect of collective emotional output, which is certainly meaningful, right? If so, like an event like, say, something traumatic like 9/11, where the collective is aghast at what's happening. Whatever they think, whatever you think about what happened, just the fact that it happened created this big warp, this crater almost within the collective. How does that tie into all this? That as an effect tie into us in our individual lives, as far as the greater picture of time within the idea of space, time, space, and multidimensionality, which is where really reincarnation, I think, lives.
I don't know how to answer
Like, can that change? Did that
that.
change things? So, yeah, I know. See, I'm getting far out with my ponders. It's just interesting to me the idea when we start talking about time, which is where I really find a lot of time loops just fascinate me and the idea of it. So, all right, moving forward into the idea of death. What? So you already have said non-local, and I'm there with you on that. That used to be where in on like social media sites and stuff. Where do you live? Non-local used to be my slapstick. Uh, Um, anyway, so what are your ideas on death?
Ideas. I mean, I think that it's the physical body stops, and possibly your whatever is you that goes on, because it's just inhabiting that little knot of physicality for a while. Um, I that's the best model I have right now. I don't know until I actually die what that might be.
That's
Um,
why it's so exciting to talk about.
yeah.
Nobody knows.
Um, what's interesting when you bring up that subject of death is that I saw Whitley Strieber speak a few months ago, and his wife Anne, before she died, she said, "I think the UFO thing is very tied into the concept and the experience of death," um, which is a very weird thing to say.
I
Um,
agree with that, by the way.
why?
I don't know. I've listened to him talk about that recently. It was such a shift. I think on THC
It was.
last.
It was a really good interview if you haven't heard it.
Oh my god, it was amazing. It was one of his best.
Yeah, I
I
got to
don't.
listen to that.
Yeah, you should. And I don't want to. I don't want to get off on me here because I'm interested in you.
That's okay. I threw the question back at you because and it's fine if we have a conversation. I just wanted to hear what you thought about that. You said, yes, I think it's important. And I will tell you why I think it's important, but it's your turn right now.
It could be
Well,
that death is what happens after death is what you believe to happen, what you believe is going to happen to you. So, and that goes back to programming and telling people what to think too. If people expect to go to heaven or hell, maybe that's where they go.
and to further that, or and to throw my input in also, is a series of events that happened to me when I was very young around death. As I've already said, I've lost a lot of people, and it started very young with my cousin who was my age. We were both like, I think she was 7, I was 6. Was really the first outside of grandparents, which seemed detached. My cousin Kylie, we were playing in this, she got sick and died. I was there, and I got to see her in the hospital all hooked up and then in a casket with a wig on and makeup. And it was also confusing to me. Um, and then after that event, I started to have this series of high strangeness where it was encountering my future self, like around this age, actually speaking to me. And it seemed like, and so I'm going to jump forward later on. When I became aware of like the ET paradigm, I thought, maybe that's ETs. I could never house the event. I could never wrap the event of this communication I was getting from something that felt like other than me,
Hmm.
until more recently when I started to have these remembrances of it. And it was me from this period in my life speaking and communicating through meditative dreams to that little child that was having a very hard time. So that's what I'm talking about with the street, where I think that there's some maybe disassociative stuff, or how we want to cognitively wrap up an experience. And it's so easy to push it into the other, into the ET experience, when it could actually be ourselves.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, people say that they specifically say that they know it's coming from outside of them. But because of my model agnosticism thing, where it's like, will not like stick myself into one theory as much as I can, I'm not sure. And since I haven't had that kind of experience, I can't tell people what to think. I always go back to, whatever somebody thinks, as long as they're not forcing it on me or asking me for money for it or whatever, they can believe whatever they want, and whatever helps them integrate the experience is the
Yes.
correct answer.
Yes.
As long as it's not pushed on other people and it's like, well, this must be it and you must be wrong. I mean, no, that's not how it works. The experiencer is varied as there are people.
Absolutely.
The funny thing is, when you were saying that, I was thinking of, have you seen that animated thing, the animated film World of Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Is it the 70s one?
No.
No, this came out about 4 or 5 years ago. There's a part 2 now, but there's
It came
a
out when
little girl in
Tomorrowland-
it. Huh?
I'm sorry. It came out when Tomorrowland came out, like almost the same time.
I think we're talking about a different thing.
No, it's the 15-minute cartoon about the girl.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, we are talking about the same.
yeah.
It just coincidentally came out when World. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So there's no connection, between the two. But it's a little girl that's meeting herself from the future, and herself from the future is telling her what she told her when she was a little girl.
Yes,
you might enjoy
that's
it.
what
I mean,
I'm talking about. I want to see. That's on my list.
yeah, it's funny and poignant, and I mean, just talking about it now makes me cry. I showed that film to Micah Hanks, and he sat there in silence for about 10 minutes after it.
Oh,
Just
wow.
going, what did I just see? What did I just see? Oh my God.
Jerry,
Just-
link me, please.
I think it's on Netflix.
Jerry always links me. This
That's
is our
where
thing.
it was. Yeah.
He always links me.
Yeah. I saw it in the animation show of shows like years ago, like 5 years ago, and I was aghast at how great it, because I knew about Don Hertzfeldt, the animator, from before, and I knew it was his style. It's like, oh my God, this is what he did. He's done a part 2 now, which is my wife and I constantly walk around the house quoting from those two.
Oh, awesome. Oh, I can't
those two
wait.
films.
Oh, this is great. Thank you. And the fact that it's short too fits into some of my time constraints of recent.
Yeah, it's 15
recent
minutes
days.
long, and the second one's I think 19 minutes long. But it's stick figures, but the most epic stick figure animation you've ever seen.
Oh, wow. Well, profound. The whole idea,
And the guy
So-
made it by talking to his niece, just recording her babbling stuff, and he built a script around her babbles that made no sense by themselves, but he turned them into a story.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it took years and years. I want the experience. I couldn't even perceive that it was me. I always pushed it into something else. When I was little, it was a fairy, right? That's what I grew up in. I had in an Irish household, and it was fae. And then it got, I thought, oh man, these ETs, this is what it was. It was like a gray, it was like having this communication. And then when it was just lights on, when I looked.
Yeah, that's what
back.
made sense to you, and that's how you were able to integrate it. That's why I say, abduction researchers for UFO stuff, I think they should concentrate on getting the person comfortable and integrated back to their normal functioning self, rather than trying to figure out which aliens took them and how do I make my next book or whatever the hell it is. And there's plenty of researchers, I think, mostly that you don't hear about, that is their goal. Let's get this person feeling better about themselves and being okay with the experience, no matter what it is. And that's that should be the prime directive in taking care of people that have had whatever abduction experiences are. I think it's too codified now. I think hypnosis should be done away with. I think that I spoke to a college class the other day, and they said, "What do you think about hypnosis?" And I said, "I'll tell you what. My latest thing is my fantasy is that when somebody goes out to talk to somebody that's had a weird experience, either abduction or has seen something close up or whatever, take a giant pad of paper and a bunch of colored pens and pencils and put them in front of them and say, here, what happened to you? Bye, and come back like 3 days later.
That's very Jungian. That's like
Yeah.
the part of Jungian analysis, of which I went through, but the analysis said, you know, like the idea in that is that it is you, of course it's you, and that, you know, it's fragmented pieces through all kinds of different language.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when I could see it clearly here not too long ago, it was soul shattering, because of course it was me, but it was also not me. I'm not the same me I was then, and I'm not even the same me I was yesterday. And this is a question we always ask. So it's also, there's an anomalous autonomy to it, right? You're not the same you. And so therefore it was separate. It was a separate, and that's why it had this sense of autonomy. And I can see why the waters are murky, and I can see why and how things get so confusing, and why predators are about telling people and guiding a narrative what they think it is. And so, you know, caution's all. My first thing is always, is this me? You know, like, I want to know, the universe is really around me at this time. This is my content.
Yeah. That's how I feel too, without trying not to be, you know, like
Ego, and without ego.
Without ego, yeah. I mean, ego is probably one of the worst problems in a lot of these areas in ufology and all these places. Like, get your own damn self out of the way. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of our society operates, is on, you know, ego-centered activity. But I've got this idea that if we could get ego out of it and be kind of more of a Zen, and I'm not saying this in a hippie Zen, like Zen, meaning really non-ego-centered view of anomalies, we could probably go a lot closer to the heart of what they might be, and they might not be anomalies anymore.
Well, we know that trauma can create, especially induced trauma from others, can create disassociation.
Yes.
So, and this is a tactic governments use. It's used. It's a weapon. It can certainly be weaponized, but we do it to ourselves too. It's just a natural function, and it's survival. And no matter what, survival is the highest law.
Yeah, we've got a trauma culture right now. Let's panic about something, and then whoever is making you panic offers you the solution. Fear not this menace we have just created.
So Trump, there are people who are actually like get shaken in terror because of Trump, you know, because they're so scared of what he's going to do or what he is, or, you know, that kind of thing. They can't handle it. It's funny.
Well, I think he's insane, but, you know, I don't run around being scared about it.
Yeah, right. You can't really do much.
Yeah. So I try to stay centered in a lot of things. I've got certain ideas about politics, which I don't want to talk about on this show, but I try to stay centered about, I don't panic either one way or the other, depending on which side is yelling at me. I mean, I do the same thing in politics just about that I do in my paranormal stuff. Yeah. I try to keep a center on it. And
you kind of have to.
I don't vote based on party. I vote based on who I think has probably got the best, you know, who I agree with the most. Now, you can argue about voting or whatever, but if nobody votes, then you know, that's like giving up your last little bit of control. you know. So
I agree.
If there's any left, that's about the only way you can do anything about it. So that's my political.
Cool. No, we don't want to talk about politics. We avoid it usually.
I do too. I mean, I
don't avoid it. It just doesn't usually come up.
I don't bring it up. That's for sure.
Because what it is you try to convince somebody of something that they're probably not going to listen.
It's divisive.
You know, I sell T-shirts that say "Do not engage," and the reason I have the what that means is 99% of the time, engaging with anybody on something where you're not going to change their mind is a waste of time. And the only way, and people's minds aren't changed by one conversation. So basically, you're just two monkeys yelling at each other. And I don't
Totally.
like that. The best kind of exchanges are personal ones outside of the public eye, not on the internet. If I get in enough of an argument with somebody online and it looks like they aren't complete morons, I'll say, hey, let's take this offline. Message me privately, and we have a civilized conversation, and that's great. I think that's the best way to interface with the people, not
Anonymously on Twitter.
Yeah. As soon as people know people are watching, they act 180 degrees different most of the time. So the best way to convince anybody of anything, or at least not convince them, but have a civilized conversation, is one-on-one outside of a public forum. I've found that over and over and over again, which is why I have those, do not engage t-shirts. I've got so many times where I wanted to say something. It's like, I start pounding it out with the keyboard. I look at it and then go, okay, I've gotten that out of my system, and I delete it.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
I actually hope that what you're talking about now, this direction, this trajectory, these times bring people closer together outside of the internet. I'm hoping, because a lot of people are starting to recognize that if we just speak to each other one-on-one, that there's an actual connection that goes on. There's a real energetic exchange that happens, and it brings us closer together. In the end, we can still disagree, but this weirdness that's going on with the disconnected world is obviously it's necessary. It's part of the process, but we're seeing the mess of it. So I have a question for you.
It's the Kali Yuga of the internet.
It is, yes. You're good with these one-liners. I love it. Okay, so this is kind of my last question before getting questions from the chat. What is the soul or spirit, if they're separate to you? What is that? What's going on with that? Why is it everywhere in all religions? You see, how do you feel about it? What are your ideas about soul, spirit?
I guess there was like a debate on post the other day on the Facebook, and also in the calls, about what the difference between soul and spirit was. And I guess the difference for me is soul is what you have when you're born, and spirit is developed as you go through your life. I guess that would be my opinion right now on that. It could change, and I could be completely wrong and talking out my ass. But those things, as I think for most people, their soul is in their soul. They know what's right, and if they step away from that, then problems start to happen. If you can stay centered on that soul part, that will keep you connected to other people, keep you connected to a sense of I'm trying to think of the word. What's I can't think of words anymore here, you guys.
Laurie Anderson said, "Language is a virus."
Yeah, exactly. I think she got that from William Burroughs, actually.
Yes, you're right.
Compassion. I mean, if you have a true sense of compassion for other people, I think you are connecting with your soul. Because then you know that we're all connected. We're all basically come from the same thing, and that if you look in the person you hate's eyes, you can still see their humanity and see you in them. That's one of the hardest things to do. But I think that's what soul is, and that we should, if we're not connected to that and we move away from it, that's when we start doing bad things to each other and to the environment, to animals, and all that other stuff. So if there's a way to take these people that are so far away from their soul and shock them back into realizing that what I just said, maybe there wouldn't be as many problems, and people would be. It's hard to be kind to everybody. It's really hard, but I think everybody should make an effort to do that. If that's foremost in your mind, then I think you lose a lot of fear and you lose a lot of doubt. I mean, these sound like platitudes and all that, but it's after living for a while and talking to people and having friends and having enemies and having problems and having joys and all that seems to make the most sense to me.
I love that. I agree. I mean, we do need more soul going on, more soulful experiences.
Yeah, and recently in the last few months, I've been getting very emotional about things, and I don't know why that is. A couple of people said, "Oh, it's menopause."
No, they're ascension symptoms. You're ascending to 5D and you're purging negative energies.
Wrap it how you want.
Yeah, maybe so, but things.
I'm kidding.
That was Jerry throwing a joke out, but it still applies if you want to.
Or I wasn't joking.
Yeah. I can accept both. I just put a quote up on my Facebook page from F. Scott Fitzgerald.
I just read that.
Did you read it? Yeah.
I did.
The quality of a first-rate intelligence is to be able to hold two opposing ideas in the same mind and still being able to function. Exactly. And I love that.
Yes.
I hold opposing ideas all the time. I mean, it makes me excited that I can hold opposing ideas in my mind. I'm not saying I'm a big intelligent person, but the fact that you can try to do that means that you're striving for. Look, I'm trying to be a better person by being able to, especially with all this paranormal stuff. It's true. It's not true. I went to that Bob Lazar film a couple.
So he mentions Bob Lazar and he gets cut
you
off.
roboted, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Are you back, Craig? Oh, wow, he really did freeze during that. BB went to see the film too.
Did she?
Mm-hmm.
I read Walter Bosley's review. He said it was okay. It was the same old shit.
BB kind of said, I can't remember what she said. She kind of said, it seemed in my memory, I'm sure she's in the chat, something kind of similar to that. Wow, great. So for people who don't know, Greg just totally was talking about Bob Lazar and he dropped out. Wow, Jerry, that's interesting.
All right.
Did we get any questions from the chat?
I was just about to collect them. Technogrum. This is the first problem we've had tonight.
Yeah, outside of a little bit of roboting, it's been pretty damn smooth.
All right, Oswald showed up at the last minute to ask questions. Thank you, Oswald.
Yay, hello, Oswald. Hello, people of the chat that I am not seeing. But I do go back and look.
Facebook. Trying to get that one.
Are you talking to him at all anywhere?
No. Should I be?
Well, I don't know what's going on with him, so that may be it.
He's got the Zoom link now. Plus his power went out.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my God, you guys are bracing for that storm, aren't you? Isn't it supposed to be a huge, gigantic...
There he's back.
Yay.
You're muted too.
Greg, you're muted.
I got you.
He's still muted.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Unmute.
It's funny, Greg, that
my wife will show up soon and I'll have to go out and move my car, which will take about probably 5 minutes.
Well, we're going to wrap soon anyway, but it's funny you mentioned Bob Lazar and then you go completely, it goes dead. It was. And we had a pretty smooth show all night, but then the mention of Bob Lazar.
Yeah, what I was saying was that the fact that I believe that Bob believes what he says, but I also have serious doubts about what he says, and that's fine with me. I am fine with those two ideas living in my brain at the same time.
Yeah, me too. I find it actually healthy to entertain. This is the whole crux of remain open. I think remaining open and having stuff, it becomes totally bollocks. So you throw it off the table, like when
I can't hear anybody right now.
Oh no. Can you hear me, Jerry?
We better stop talking about Bob, I think.
I can hear you. You can't hear me? You can't hear us?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Oh wow. Yeah, all I'm just mirroring the idea of remaining open. And so I think it is a healthy thing to have contradictory stuff mulling around in your on your table.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, otherwise, anybody that takes a strong position, at least in the paranormal, um, there's going to be 100 good arguments against what your position is, and if you don't see that, then you start to look very silly,
Mhm.
except to the people that are in your echo chamber.
Right. Absolutely. Oh, those echo chambers.
Somebody accused my show of being an echo chamber, and I got so upset. I was like, "Oh, I better have people on." So I had two people on that were heavy extraterrestrial hypothesis not believers, but that was their position, and I'm not. I'm a heavy not extraterrestrial hypothesis person. So we discussed it. We had a. Can you hear that? It's my phone.
Is it your wife?
Yeah, it's my wife. I think I have to go out and move the car.
Okay. You take a break if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
Okay. We'll be
All
right
right, I'll be
back,
right back.
people. We'll be right
Okay,
back.
thanks.
I gotta find my break.
That's fun. to entertain our crowd.
No, we've been on break. I had everything turned off. We're
Oh,
back.
that's too
We're
bad.
back, everyone. Yeah, I know. You're talking like we should be live on this. A good conversation.
I know you. For the chat, we just had a fantastic conversation that I thought we were live, but we weren't.
Yeah, I know.
So,
You're talking like shit.
so anyway, where are we now?
We're live. We're back. We were talking about. You asked me what I thought about it. I don't really want to go into that.
Right. Okay. We don't have to, and we definitely don't have to rehatch it. Hatch it. So, good questions.
But I'll give you the gist, though. It was along the same lines of keeping two ideas of reality in your head at once. Like I keep this idea that space is fake and we live in a virtual whatever hologram, but maybe it's not. So that's basically two ideas that are separate. So when I hear a lot of space news and stuff, I'm like, yeah, right. Half of me is like, yeah, right. That's not going to happen. But it could be. I don't know. That was the gist of the conversation. This is for the audience.
I think that if we're living in a simulation, how the hell do we know it's a simulation? It's just our reality.
Yes.
Right, we can't.
It's almost meaningless to even ask that question.
Almost all the questions we ask, we won't get answers for.
Right. Our whole show's meaningless.
It's all meaningless. Bye.
Just fun to explore and talk.
Transcend.
I got questions if you're ready. I think that's
where
where we were, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I forgot who asked this. I apologize. Someone wants to know if you read Gary Lockman's book, Dark Star Rising, Magic and the Power in the Age of Trump. And if so, what did you think?
Sorry, no, I didn't read it. I'm going to have to read some Lockman, actually, because I want to have him on my show at some point. And try not to talk about Blondie.
Okay.
He is a respected esotericist and writer now, and I've seen that for many years, but I've yet to read one of his books. You know what I'm reading now? I'm reading Time Loops. I'm reading Authors of the Impossible. I'm reading The Supernatural, the Streamer and Kripal book. I'm reading I gotta look on my Kindle. I mean, I've got like 8 books. I got 8 books going right now.
I'm about the same. There was I'll tell you about that afterwards. So okay. Another question here is, what kind of minds or types of perception does it take to perceive meaning compared to the general populace?
I think I understand the question. For me, it is, you have to be constantly curious and not accepting of any one explanation. If that satisfies, and if anybody else wants to tackle that, that's fine too.
No, it's good. I'm looking for more questions. I saw one. There was.
I'm trying to find the other books. Okay, I'm reading The Entity Letters, which is about a guy that did research with a paranormal group for years. I'm reading Lonely Hearts, which is a biography of Nathaniel West. I'm finishing The Trickster and the Paranormal.
I want to read that.
Yeah, that's a great book. I have finished Silver Screen Saucers by my friend Robbie Graham. Heaven Can Wait, which is Diana Pasulka's book about the concept of purgatory and how that's changed over the centuries. The Comedians, a history of American comedy from like the late 19th century up to the present.
That sounds good.
Yeah. What else? There's Authors of the Impossible. I just finished a book called Failure is Not an Option by the guy that was the Capcom, the head of the
video game company.
No, Capcom it might be, but this is the guy that was Gene Kranz, who was the voice you hear on half of the Apollo missions.
Oh.
Our Final Invention, Artificial Intelligence and the End of the Human Era.
Did you hear that they just shut down the AI on the ISS has gone rogue and become belligerent?
No, I didn't hear that one.
Mm-hmm.
I did not hear that either, Jerry. That's hilarious. All the AI get belligerent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At Day's End, a history of what people did, how people slept at night in times past. Fairy Faith in the Celtic Countries, which I haven't read for years. Anyway, that's just some of the books I'm reading.
Those are goodies, Greg.
Yeah.
So someone's asked me a question, but I don't understand it, so I can't ask it. And he
We'll
won't
ask it and see if we do.
What is your take on Paul and if he's seen the documentary with Johnny Gauch being a White House aide for George Bush Jr.?
No idea what you're talking about.
Me neither.
Sorry.
Ditto. So 3 dittos there.
Yeah, I apologize. You have to be clearer. If you can come back with something clear. The only Paul I know 2 Pauls. One is Kimball, who's my friend from Canada, who's a filmmaker, and the other Paul is Paul Bennewitz.
And that's what I thought he was talking about, but it's like,
yeah, the rest of the question didn't make sense to me in relationship to Paul Bennewitz.
yeah, I don't know if it's a Russian AI. Oh, it's cool. Sorry, cult fan.
Was he talking about Johnny Gosh?
Yes.
Oh, who was a friend of mine? I went to school with him.
Oh, I know that name, but I can't remember.
I don't know it at all.
Yeah. He got kidnapped in the 80s.
Mm.
Pretty famous case. And
Yes.
Arena's mom, I believe, is still on the case.
And okay, here's another one. Did you read Creepall's book on Esalen? Esalen? Yeah, there you go.
I am reading that book. That's another book I'm reading. Is this a psychic person? I'm reading it, but I'm only about I'm about 50 pages into it. It's a horse choker. It's like 400 something pages.
Who asked it? Is this psychic person?
It's Oswald.
Oh, that's great. Hello, Oswald.
All right.
That was just the question. Am I reading that book?
Yes.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that book?
I wanted to see the history of that institution, and because Kreipel is kind of like he's on the committee now for Esalen, and it's basically a group that was formed in the late 50s or early 60s, and it's basically a think tank for kind of forward-thinking, new agey, new technology, spirituality, all those things, and the intersections of them. It's a fascinating thing, and it's
not Tavistock 2.0 though.
I don't think so. I can't remember what that was.
It's the overall social engineering program that's going on around us.
I think if you want to be conspiratorial about it, it could be part of it, yes. But I tend to think it's like it's not a Bohemian Grove type thing. It's more like, what can we do using all these new ideas to improve life on this planet? I think that's unless I'm mistaken, and I'm sure somebody will tell me I am, that is the goal of Esalen. And they've had real, actual effects on the world. I think Gorbachev stayed there for a while during the détente thing, and they really they talked to him quite a bit and made him more open to talking to Reagan, and that whole period of history, I think, was affected very, very deeply by or very directly by the Esalen experience.
I'll have to research that. I'm not familiar with it at all. And I wasn't suggesting they were a social programming group.
Well, whenever you have a group of people that's kind of closed off, and you and I are not allowed to go there, there's automatically some sort of, there's suspicion. I've never seen anything to make me suspect that they're anything more than kind of a new agey, forward-thinking think tank. Robert Anton Wilson was there many times. Timothy Leary was there many times. And that continues to be, it's the kind of thing I want to do. Who wouldn't want to get together with a bunch of really smart people and talk out some problems that you can figure out, and then take those things and move it out into the real world and try to apply them? I think that's what they do. I think they're like, they're the opposite of if the empire is what you just said, Bohemian Grove and stuff like that, then the rebels, to my mind, are sort of more along the lines of Esalen.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I was going to say. Yeah, you reminded me of something. Anyway, that's all the questions we have. Anything else,
Okay.
Nish?
No, this has been great.
Yes, thank you so much, Greg. Did you want to plug your new book or anything you want? The floor is yours.
Okay, well, the only real books, I mean, I've got a bunch of books, but the two newest ones, well, newest 2 years ago was It Defies Language. That's available at Lulu, which I prefer you use because I get more money for it, or Amazon, either as print or as Kindle. And the newest one, which is coming out in a week, less than a week, is called A is for Adamski. I co-wrote with my friend Adam Go-Rightly. It's an examination of the UFO contactee movement, probably late 1940s to almost up to the present, but it concentrates mainly 1940s through probably 1970s. And it's people that said that aliens contacted them and told them and gave them messages, mostly of brotherly love. And
no pancakes.
And no, you know what? Simonton is in there.
Oh, is he?
We stretch the definition of contactee a little bit. In fact, even Charles Hickson is in there of the Pascagoula incident because he said that he had continued contacts and that whoever it was said, do not be afraid. You have a purpose, and we will tell you what you need to tell the world. And stop building atomic bombs and the whole bit. He fits very comfortably within the contactee milieu, and people just know him for being taken on board a ship while he was fishing with his partner Calvin Parker, his friend Calvin. So there's a lot of great stuff in that book, and a lot of we did it basically because we found a treasure trove of photographs of a lot of these people that nobody had seen either for a long time or ever. So, and there'll be a color version and a Kindle version and all that too.
I look forward to reading that.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, we thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on our show.
Truly.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
And everyone, thank you for listening, and thanks for being in the chat, and thanks for watching it. And thanks, Nish. You want to say goodbye? We're saying goodbye. Be sure to tune in next week for Tim Renner, host of Strange Familiars. Interesting guy. Have you met Tim?
No, but isn't he working on a book with Josh Cutchin?
I don't know.
Well, I thought I heard that too, Greg.
Bigfoot, right?
That's what I thought I heard.
Yeah, they're working on a Bigfoot book. Yeah, so ask him about that.
I will definitely.
Yes.
So join us next week. Tim Renner will be here, and we will see you then. So everyone, thanks a lot, and have a good night.
Thank you, everyone, and Greg.
Thank you, Nish and Jerry.